The Las Vegas Raiders elect to do nothing at the trade deadline, and this is a key moment in the Raiders season where they could either turn things around right here and maybe salvage a winning record at some point, or they could completely continue to collapse and then try to hope for some high draft picks to help the team next year. But there will be no reinforcements added to the Raiders, which makes a ton of sense because they're at 2-5 right now, 4th place in the division. Not exactly the moment to trade draft picks for players to try to compete for the playoffs. So the Raiders will stick with the guys they have and see what could happen this season. What is odd is that the Raiders didn't trade players away. We knew that there was some chatter going on about Jonathan Abram and also Cleveland Farrell about the trade deadline, about the fact that these guys on the last year of their rookie contract could be traded away to some teams who are trying to make a push for the playoffs. And Jonathan Abram was rumored to be that guy, actually rumored to be traded within the division, according to Jordan Schultz, and that did not happen. And this is actually really odd when you couple this with the fact that in this past game against the New Orleans Saints, Jonathan Abram actually had his season low of snaps. In the past 2 games prior to against the Saints, he had averaged about 54 snaps a game, had his high against the Cardinals at 86 snaps, but against the Saints, this dude only had 22 snaps. And so that led me to believe, okay, this guy's for sure getting traded. He's not even playing. When you look at what was happening during the game, it seemed like Blake Martinez kind of replaced Jonathan Abram, and you only saw Jonathan Abram in the game on running plays against the Saints. So I thought, wow, the clock is ticking on this dude. They're trying to ship him away. But the Raiders will instead hold on to Jonathan Abram. Maybe they didn't get the offer they wanted. Maybe the only thing they would have gotten for Jonathan Abram could be a low draft pick, like a 7th round pick, a 6th round pick, similar to the compensation they've received for players like Trayvon Mullen and Jonathan Hankins. So perhaps it's in the Raiders' best interest to try to continue to develop Jonathan Abram with this new defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, and maybe he can progress to the point where this leads to another contract with the Raiders. But now the Raiders enter a point in their season where they could either crumble right now and continue to disintegrate, continue to fail like they have been doing thus far, or they could get some wins together, turn things around, and if you get 3 wins, then you become a 500 team. Or perhaps they could stack some wins together, see which players are going to be here for the long term, and try to at least get out of here with a winning record this year. And the Raiders are actually favorites against the Jaguars, even though the Jaguars are going to be at home. The Jags are slight underdogs, but they have some former Raiders players who are going to be hungry to beat Las Vegas. Former 3rd round pick Arden Key is having a great season as an edge rusher with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And number 7 Zay Jones continues to make plays in Doug Peterson's offense. And what is so frustrating about the Las Vegas Raiders is the biggest problem on their team right now, and the biggest problem that showed up last week, was Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr. Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr as a unit and their inability to get the ball to their wide receivers. And a lot of people want to say, oh, Derek Carr is being pressured. You know, the Josh McDaniels and Derek Carr, they have no hope because of all the pressure and the pocket is collapsing. You know, this past game, yes, it was the 2nd highest number of sacks that Derek Carr has taken all year with 3 sacks. But in terms of dropbacks under pressure, it was actually tied for the 2nd lowest, only 12 dropbacks under pressure. The high was against Kansas City with 15 dropbacks under pressure. And in terms of time to throw, how much time did Derek Carr have to throw the football? 2.87 seconds, actually the 3rd longest on the year. And when you talk about dropbacks under pressure, Derek Carr is only at 15 here with 87 dropbacks under pressure. So pretty much the mid-range of the NFL, not the highest at all. So the Raiders desperately need to find some answers here on the offensive side of the ball. And the defense is not pretty either, but I don't want to sit here and start criticizing the defense. I know the defense looked bad in that past game, but I am not going to sit here and blame the defense at all, even though they got straight up run over by Alvin Kamara. And maybe that's because we traded away Jonathan Hankins, a defensive tackle, so you're not going to have too much depth there. I'm still not going to sit here and criticize the defense at all when the offense does not even cross the 50-yard line with their starters in the game. And actually, when you look at PFF's numbers from last game, 2 of the highest graded Raiders was Thayer Mumford and Jermaine Illuminor. So this is a problem between the coach, the quarterback, and their connection with the wide receivers. But we know how this goes. Everybody forgets about the past if you're winning in the present, right? And if the Raiders go into Jacksonville and beat the Jacksonville Jaguars and pick up their first victory on the road this season, then the narrative can start to change a little bit. But it's going to take the Raiders stringing together tons of wins in a row for anything to change about the prospects of anything being salvaged this season. But I think more than anything, this offense needs to prove that it's worth the money that it's been paid so far this year. In the Raiders' only 2 victories this season, the defensive side of the ball had to score at least 1 touchdown. You had the Duran Harmon pick 6 against the Texans, and then you had the Amik Robertson fumble recovery for a touchdown against the Denver Broncos. So the defense is scoring points for the offense in the few victories that the Raiders even have this year so far. And if the offense cannot prove itself this year, something has to change. There has to be a drastic change. And Mark Davis has alerted us to the fact that seems like he already gave Josh McDaniels a big bag of money. Keep in mind, Josh McDaniels made $4 million a year as the Patriots offensive coordinator. So if he is hired by the Raiders, and by the way, these coaching contracts are fully guaranteed, you know for sure it's over $4 million a year. This guy is at least getting paid $5-6 million a year, bare minimum. So the question is, if this offense continues to not show up in critical moments, who is Josh McDaniels going to put the blame on? That's going to be the key factor and the key thing to pay attention to this season if the Raiders continue to lose games. We are going to be live on this channel during the Jacksonville Jaguars game. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for more Raiders content. My name is WiFiWillie. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.